Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again. My purpose is to be an instrument of peace and prosperity and freedom for every human being that ever hears my voice and for those who hear the message that I bring. However, today I would like to speak on the subject matter when evil rules. And to qualify this initial part, I would like to use an example of two people who have made it very clear in this instance what I want to make as far as the message. Somewhere I heard it said that you are entitled to your opinion. Everyone entitled to your opinion, but not your facts. Facts are facts. They cannot be altered around anything. A fact is a fact. For instance, when you start thinking about politics and life and what would work for a society, different groups of different people, depending upon our experiences, will have different ideas about how to achieve that. And that's okay because it's just an opinion until you prove out what the reality actually is. And once you prove out what the reality is, then it's that. It's not anything else. It's the reality. Now, in American politics, Republican and Democrat and independents and all that and non-voters, we have all expressed ourselves, no doubt. Now, in the Republican scene of the past several years, we have seen them walk according to their basic opinions, their basic ideas about what life was supposed to be about. They've expressed their opinion quite well, and it is a hurtful opinion. It hurts many, many, many people, but yet that's the way it is. Now, something happened during the 2020 election. Somebody told a lie. Now, a lie is not the same as the truth. The truth, you can't make the lie a truth, and you can't make the truth a lie. Now, these two particular individuals, Miss Liz Cheney, a Republican, who totally disagreed with a lot of things the Democrats represented. Mr. Adam Kinzinger, we felt the same way. His opinion about how to make America a progressive nation, a best nation, is a Republican and totally, for the most part, not the same as the Democrats. But when the Republicans stood up and said that the election was stolen and started telling all of those lies, people who don't know the truth, people who don't know right and wrong, or do but decided not to pay attention to it, jumped on the bandwagon of that opinion and advocated it as the truth. Two people, now there were more than two, I think there were several others, but for some strange reason, the others went on and started going back with the opinionators. But these two people stood up and said, no, Ms. Cheney and Mr. Kinzinger stood up and said, no, that's a lie. Now, I might have gone along with our opinions and stuff because they served us well. But a lie? Oh, I'm not going for no lie. I stand up for what I know to be truth. I supported my philosophy. I supported my opinion. But this is a lie. And so I'm going to acknowledge it as a lie. Now, these two people stood up, it seems, against the whole Republican Party. Now, there were other Republicans, I'm sure, who felt like they did, but they were kind of silent. The others were so voiceful. Now, what does that say? I will not support the lie. When the whole rest of the party, in their supporting it or in their silence, supports it. This is what I see when it comes down to truth. The way of life that leads to the best that you can possibly have. There's a basic pattern, there's the basic principles that you can employ that have been proven that it will offer the best that people can actually have. That's a fact. Now, I didn't know what they were. I grew up like most people in America, listening, hearing, believing, disbelieving, whatever was appropriate. But somewhere in my life, I was moved as a social scientist to seek out some truth. Why is it that we always have to have turmoil in our nation? Why is it that we have to have all this evil stuff happening? I wanted to know a truth. So in my pursuit of truth, I ended up separating myself from the normal way of life. You know, going to a job every day, hitting the clock, checking out, going to my breaks and whatever I do at night, going through the routine of life. And I wanted to travel around and talk to people. And to be more specifically, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk about what I had learned about God. I can't talk about this conversation without mentioning God. See, God is the ultimate of my belief system. I got a lot of beliefs, some of them good, some of them bad. But God is the ultimate of my belief system. In other words, when I say that, I believe God is in charge of all things. What God is in charge. Power. That's all I know. I don't know anything about some man. I don't know anything about me being made in the image. I heard people say that. I don't know nothing about it. Because I've heard these same people say some crazy stuff. But I've had miracles in my life, and I know that human beings had nothing to do with it. And whether that was a power outside of me causing that to happen or a power inside of me causing that to happen, I know it wasn't me. So I accept that power. So for the most part, I've basically been concerned about how can we live heavenly, if I may be permitted to say that. Not like a Democrat, not like a Republican, but to live heavenly. And when I say heavenly, I'm talking about where your prayers are answered, where you don't have to be going through the sufferings that we as human beings go through today. So I decided that, let me find out. So I decided, having taken myself out of the normal ways of life, to travel around the country and talk to people about my opinions about life. And I used scripture. When I went into the churches, I talked to them. We discussed scriptures. When I spoke in a church, I spoke using a lot of scripture, but mostly my life experience. And so what I learned as I traveled throughout the country, and it took a while, and some of it took me overseas, and some of it took me to commit some crimes that would put me in jail. Now, remember, I said I committed some crimes that would put me in jail. I didn't try to hide from them. I committed them and acknowledged it for the purpose of going to jail. Because in my heart, what I found out and wanted you to know was so important. And you had resisted it so much in the newspaper and the radio stations and the TV stations, resisted it as if they didn't want you to know, as if what I was saying was important. So I committed the crime, knowing that I would be prosecuted. And because of the walk I had taken, and now the action that would have me prosecuted might get your interest. And you might come to the trial or follow through on the process and see what I've been trying to say. Well, even that didn't work. But this is what I did find out, ladies and gentlemen. I wrote a book called A Walk Through Life. And that was an experience of what most of us go through in life, especially being a person of color. Then I ended it said, from hell, that's where our walk through life took us, to paradise. The mission was to learn this information and come out of it with answers that were, the things that we chose to go forward with, so we would have that paradise. So I wrote that book, but I couldn't publish it outside. I did own personal publication, and I got it for me, and I was going to release it after paradise is effected or resurrected, if it ever existed before. But that hasn't happened. And so I was holding it for after my death so my kids could use it for their own purpose. It was entitled A Walk Through Life from Hell to Paradise. But initially, that was not my goal. My goal was to find out what the problem was and what the solutions would be. And so when I wrote the book, From Hell to Paradise, I wanted to utilize it as a stepping stone so we could actually see the steps that were to be made. But I couldn't show it to you until you actually were making some steps. So the opportunity came that would offer you a chance to make some steps toward your paradise. So I ran for President of the United States. What did I do that for? Because I wanted to advocate to the nation what I had learned. And I did. It was totally rejected by all of the people, by every radio station. I got a few newspapers when I wrote to them to the editor, writing to the editor. Some of the editors across the country would respond and say stuff like, nobody was interested in what I was talking about because I cared more about the people than they cared for themselves. Would you believe that people would actually say that? But other than that, I was totally rejected. But just think, most people run for president once and lose and forget it. If I ran several times, I even ran against Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. I ran against these guys because I knew they didn't know what I knew. But at each interval, I was rejected as I had been previous. I ran for governor of the state of Minnesota. I ran for a United States senator from the state of Minnesota at least twice, carrying that same message. And would you believe, maybe I could have got a little bit more attention if I was spending money. But see, the program of life, as I see it, doesn't use money. And so what I used was the message that so many people pray for. It was supposed to be so fantastic that it would generate energy in them and just cause them to respond in such a way that the message would get across the country. Didn't happen that way. But this is what I found, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I found. I made a note. It's called the When Evil Rules. Stuff that I was talking about didn't stand a chance. When evil rules, that means the dark world of the churches. It means the dark world of governments. When I say dark, what do I mean? I mean the evil within the church. I mean the evil within the government. Now, what do I mean when I say evil? I'm talking about that which destroys, that which does not build up, that which does not solidify, give strength, but tears down. Now, what I found out is this, ladies and gentlemen. The reason behind poverty and crime and violence, the reasons behind lies and cheating, the reasons behind stealing and terror, the reasons behind killing and war, the reasons behind robbery and drug trafficking, the reasons behind prostitution and gambling, the reasons behind abortion and white-collar crime, the reason behind hatred and racism and bigotry, the reasons behind white supremacy. I also included the 1%ers. A failed, corrupt state, a failed, corrupt country. These are the things that exist by design. Now, what I found out is all of this stuff right here. It exists because we are controlled by evil. Evil. Plain old simple evil. Now, you, in every form you might think of, this is what happens. And the message that I brought to you had to do with peace, prosperity, freedom, joy of life, happiness, and your dreams being fulfilled. I didn't include any of this stuff right here. The message that I brought is the one I just mentioned. But what would be required in order for these things to happen that I just mentioned? It meant this, that for people in this country who expected to benefit from this country must participate in those things that require participation in this country. That means people should have jobs or careers, or whatever they want to call it. But doing the proper way, you would have and you can choose a career or job that gives you your greatest joy. Everybody that's working, and when I mean by working, I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about when you get to that point where it's now time for you to participate. A career of your choosing. And by engaging all of the people, you would have a work pool that is so great that people could be spread out in every area of our life. And that would allow us to cause a manifestation of all the goods and services that we have determined are essential for that happiness or that heavenliness, as we want to call it, in this reservoir of goods. And that would allow we, the people, to extract from it whatever we require. And that would include, but not limited to, every American would have housing, homes. Now, you might have to start out with, how progressive things go. You might start an apartment till you get a home or whatever. But no one would be homeless. No one would be hungry, and they wouldn't have to eat at a shelter unless it was the thing of the day. Nobody would be complaining. Not only that, people would be free to be who they are and what they are. Not only that, doing that would permit them to enjoy living, enjoy going to work, enjoy their careers, would enable them to continue to produce in such an abundance that the reservoir would overflow. Not only that, they must have accessible to them education that would cause them to progress, be better at whatever it is they've chosen to do. Not only that, they're supposed to be healthy. So when diseases and sickness come, this would health situation would be resolved with the medical professions. And this country would be set up in such a way that everything was working beautifully, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I'm talking about. Not only that, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to anything that human beings might come up with their imagination and say, wow, we can do this. Maybe doing the watches, maybe doing the telephones, maybe doing electricity, maybe doing whatever. But whatever he came up with that men could put their hands to cause the manifestation in an abundance of, then the people would be able to access it. Their needs, their wants, and their desires met at their leisure. You couldn't beat that. I mean, to me, that was divine. To me, that was heaven on earth, paradise. And by doing that, my friends, you got peace instead of lying and cheating and stealing, terror and war. So, to me, this is the message that I got. This is the message that I was supposed to bring to America. I brought this message to America, and at every turn, America rejected. Now, I knew from the first time I ran for president, that message to me was supposed to be like the fires of California. Once that match scratch, a lightning strike, that fire supposed to blaze all over the place. That good news about how to get yourself out of the hell you found yourself in. I brought it to you. Let's do it. Let's implement it and be free. And it was totally ignored throughout all of those years. And from that point on, I knew what America was going to do. I already recognized, I just mentioned to you, that we are controlled by evil. So if America was rejecting the best that they could possibly have, and I never heard anybody talk about anything about America this good. In fact, the only time I heard anybody talk about anything being this fantastic, it was in heaven. So I just brought it down from heaven to earth. So when America rejected it, I knew they were going to settle for the devil. Because anything less than what I just shared with you was evil. It was demonic. It was devilish. Hell got several rooms. Like, it might not be as bad in one room as there's another. You might have me dropping bombs over here, wiping out a nation. And over here, you're just starving people. They are both wrong, but at least you might get a chance to have some change. You might not get bombed. They might then again, you might. Anyway, I knew this was going to happen. And each year after that first campaign, I watched America. Sometimes it might appear to be doing all right. When I say doing all right, I mean existing in all of its evilness, making it from day to day, month to month, year to year. And then Trump came along. He epitomized it all. When he came on the scene, even the people that were running against him identified him as being evil, corrupt, devilish. I mean, just coming on the scene. People saw him. Here comes the devil. Here comes the devil. And once they started saying that, you think people ran and started hiding? No, they went and got their cameras. They went and got their radio microphones. They went and got their pencil and pads. And then every source of the media was following this person. Everywhere he went, every word he said, they could not cut him loose. For a year of his running and campaigning, 4 years of his administration, 2 years after he'd been out of, they still on him. He got that kind of attention. And even today, when I send something to the press or send something to YouTube or Facebook, and I'm asking people to check it out, the only people that's checking it out is me. You can see how the little numbers of views pop up, and they're just representing me coming to see if anybody else has checked it out, only to find out they haven't. Not interested. And so when January 6th came around, and we saw Donald Trump trying to take over the government and everything that has happened since then, turning this into hell, and all of those people who have joined with him, all of those voices, the House of Representatives, the numbers of them, I hope 147, I think, something like that. Then the Senate, all of those guys who were sitting there passing him over every evil thing he did, they said it's okay. Every other evil thing is okay. They were just saying, come on, devil, we love you. Come on, give us some more evil stuff that will keep us in power. Give us some more evil stuff to keep us in power. And then you come along with a Christian, what? Nationalism. That seemed to have been worse than the devil. Or translated itself from anything godly, which has to do with love, to nothing but hate and destruction. That's all they talk about, hatred and destruction. And so what we have, ladies and gentlemen, right before us today is a nation that's ran by evil. It is controlled by evil. Now, many of us believe that if we can just identify publicly this evil that these guys have tried to perpetuate upon the American people, that the people will get upset and decide to go back and settle down in what we have been considered the normal democratic way in America. The normal democratic way in America, which said that you were denied your education, health, all of the benefits that I just mentioned that you would get under God's plan. They try to give you some of it, but not all of it. Some people can go to college. Some can't. Some people can get a good job, a better job that makes money. Some can't. Why? Because the system is designed to do that. What is that? Evil. Now, the message that as far as I'm concerned, the message that I brought years ago is still right there ready today. You can change your way. You can make sure that no one is homeless. You can make sure that no one is hungry. You can make sure that no one is uneducated. You can make sure that people got health care. You can make sure that they have access to transportation, all the wonderful things that I just mentioned about paradise. But you choose not to. Why? Because you maintain a system that will not permit it. You see, the plan that allows you to have your heaven on earth means that you, the people, recognize there's a power outside of you that have set you up in such a way that you can choose how you want to live. And you want to live, so you choose to make the way that would produce heaven on earth. Or not. So if you don't know what that way is, and you're being lied to every way you turn, you're going to have lying, cheating, stealing, killing, terror, war, and all that stuff. These are the kind of things that's supposed to get your attention. These are the kind of things that are facts. This, what following opinions created this. This is not following facts, except the fact that if you don't do the right thing, this is what's going to be the consequence. And this is the consequence of following evil. Following evil. And it didn't just start with Donald Trump. It has always been here since the beginning of America, and it is here today. And the things that you're talking about is not going to change it one iota. Even if you got rid of the Christian nationalism, set them down for a minute, we still will be going through the same kinds of thing. Now, when the Democratic Party was talking about Build Back Better, you know what that meant? That meant that things would be better than they have been. But the problems would still be there. Lying and cheating. Why do you think people lie? These guys and these people have gone through so much that they feel that these are doors that are open for them. These people are angry, they're dissatisfied, they're disgusted. Why do you think a man would get a gun and just walk down the street shooting people because he's on? Because he's mad as hell. That's no justification, I would say, but he said it was. And getting mad because he shot people and trying to find people and put them in jail is not going to stop it. Putting people in jail is not going to stop it when you've created them by the neglect. So my point of it is, the reason that America is going through the things that it's going through today is because America is controlled by evil. Now, I can't believe what I heard on the tube today. They said something about this Christian nationalism. You ought to check it out and see what they say. They say America. This guy's actually talk about America. Out of all the nations on the face of the earth, God chose America to come down here, bring white folks over here and take the Indians' land and impose themselves as the owners. Not only impose themselves as owners, but to speak it for God. After they were killing these people, taking their land, bringing other folks and training them as slaves. Treat what you're doing. Doing this for God, the power of God, causing all this pain and suffering. Yes, this is why it's happening today. These people who founded this nation have no concept of God. They have no concept of God. So I realized, ladies and gentlemen, when I went out there on that mission to find some information that I can come back to share with you, what I really found out is that the reason that we're going through this message is because we are not godly people. This nation is not ran by no love. Because, if I start talking about God, you're going to start talking about who's God. But I just tell you about love. This nation is not ran by compassion for one another. This nation is ran on the concept to give me my money, let me pay my bills, and you take care of yours. I had a friend, a real close friend. We were talking one time, and he told me, he said, Porter, you know what? I don't worry about too much what folks do. They had the same opportunity that I had. I went to school and got a little education. I give me a job. They could have done the same thing. I was hurt. I said, your mama, I don't think your mama would. I think your mama turned on her grave if she heard you say that. Because your mama didn't raise you like that. Your mama raised you by having compassion for one another. Man got one arm. He can't do the same thing that a man with two arms can do. What is the man with the two arms supposed to do? He's supposed to help that man along. When people are shaken, lost on their way, and you know the way you're supposed to help them. And when people are starving, you don't just go say, well, let's make sure he don't steal. You make sure that he had no need to steal. No need to lie. No need to abuse. But if the system is set up saying, well, we're going to look out for white people and what their concerns are, and everybody else just come, then you got hell right there. You got hell right there, and you will have hell all of your existence until you destroy yourself or you change. And America has made a decision that it's going to destroy themselves, it seems. But right now, we have the opportunity. God has blessed us, and I'm going to use God, because all of this hell is put before us. And it still is not as bad as it can get, or will get. Not only will we, with this evil, be beat down, but the storms are coming. The wildfires are coming. The hurricanes are coming. The floods are coming. And it's causing destruction that can only be repaired and fixed by people who are working together for the common good. But if everybody's out there on their own, it's going to be looking like those cities and towns that the hurricane have come through and wiped out, and they still look like they're little rotten sticks. Nothing has been done. That's the way the nation will look. I know I'm not talking like you would expect a guy who says he wants to be president to talk. But I'm not one of those guys that you train to be all this big words. That don't mean a darn thing unless people understand what you're talking about. And I'm talking to all of you, but mainly to regular people who've been abused. They understand what I'm talking about. And so do you. So my idea is this. The nation is controlled by sin. I don't want any part of that. And yet I know now that my mission was not to change the world, even though I hoped I could, but it was just to find out information and inform you of what the problem was. Let me see. I made a little statement here. Let me see. And I'm going to close, but I want to say this. I wrote it down. I was prepared so that I could speak the truth to the people. Not to change the world as I had hoped, but rather determine the problem and report it to the people. I found the miracles on the path to hell. I want to change the outcome. So I wrote a book, A Walk Through Life from Hell to Paradise, a paradise no American was interested in. Evil rules America, the dark world of the churches and national and local governments. We are controlled by evil. And all of the lying and the cheating and the hatred and the racism identifies that as being truth. And if you want to say that we are changed and we are not controlled by evil, then you go back and look at all these things that just mentioned, lying, cheating, stealing, and see if it still exists. And as long as it exists, then we are being ruled by evil. I don't care what you say. I don't care who you say you believe in. As long as these things exist, we're being ruled by evil. And if anybody, like Christians, talk about Jesus Christ represented a fact. Didn't walk on both sides of the fence. Didn't walk on opinion. He walked on facts. And like Miss Lynn Cheney did, and Adam Kinzinger, boy, I keep messing up your name, I apologize, did, they stood on facts. They had gone a long way, just like the wind, blowing straw. But they got to a point where they saw a lie and the truth. And they chose a fact of truth and ignored a lie. And if we ever want to live our lives, if we ever want our dreams to come true, if we ever want our prayers to be answered, we have to start living like we want it. We're going to do those things that produce it. Going to church ain't going to change nothing. Sticking on your way, forgetting everybody else, is not going to change a thing, but make it worse. So I think I'll leave it there. I had planned to do it more professional, but I saw something that says it doesn't matter whether I do it professional, just do it. And I've just done it. And I hope it did some good. Thank you so very much.